right, video's going. And now I will count down 3, 2, 1, and we will go. So are we good to go, gentlemen?
Yes, indeed.
Here we
Yes.
go. 3, 2, 1.
Just drop that ass, bitch. It's open micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that open micers logo in your mouth. Jason with his bald ass head. Jacob looking in bed. It's open micers, bitch. Heard what I said. Drop that ass. Open micers in the house. Drop that ass, pop that pussy. Open micers in the house. Open micers in the house. Open micers is a mouse. Drop that ass, pop that pussy. Open micers in the house. The mic is now open.
Yes, the mic is now open, and Jacob, he's still here. He didn't log out of Zoom like I thought he was going.
Oh my, look at the time. I just remembered.
Oh, my name is Jason Robbins.
I'm Jacob Craig, and we have a very esteemed guest on the Open Micers podcast today. Fans of the program know that we are huge fans of Whose Line Is It Anyway? This guest has been on that, and he has done so much other work. It's going to be hard to pick which credits to give him in this introduction because he is an actor that you know from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Parks and Recreation. He is a voice actor that you know from Thundercats and the Justice League and DC animated projects. He is also a comedian and impressionist that you know from the aforementioned Whose Line Is It Anyway, as well as America's Got Talent. It is the one and only, the fantastically talented Mr. Jim Meskimen. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Jacob, thanks for that nice introduction, which I didn't have to write. So hooray.
Yeah, look, you can use that for future bios, for future shows if you want. Just give me a little
theme song too. Can I just bring that along?
You can use that for sure if you want your set to go horribly. You can start off with playing
Maybe
that.
there may be a case in which I need to remove some pests from an attic, and so I think it would be.
I think that would do the job just fine. Me and Jason have a running bet on which guest that I book that will immediately log off the Zoom call as soon as we play the theme song. And so far, no one's done it.
If you ever have the good fortune to get Patrick Stewart to agree to be on your little show, I'm sure that would cause him to hit the road immediately.
I don't know. I feel like Patrick Stewart might be down with potty humor more than we think a sir should be.
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
Hey, he did voice the poo emoji, so he might be down with it.
He did. That's right. Yeah.
I'm going to start this show off by just saying, I'm an aspiring voice actor, and I love impressions, stand-up comedian, and I just want to go ahead and ask you this right up top. Will you adopt me, please?
Well, I will mentor you from a distance. Adoption. That's a very permanent kind of situation,
I'll take it.
A lot of paperwork to sign there. Also, who knows? We seem to be close to the same age. I think they might look at that kind of funny.
That's very true. You are both very close in age, which leads into my first question, Jim. Would you adopt me?
You sure? Yeah. You're
Yes.
right. You're right in the pocket.
Yes. Ironically, Jason doesn't have any other kids that come in the scenario, but I have a 4-year-old that I have to take with me, unfortunately.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No, but I do mentor people. I do coaching, and I try to encourage people. I've got a whole online course, which is kind of in limbo at the moment, but I'm going to re-release it pretty soon, on how to get into voiceovers and how to be a working actor, because if I have not achieved the level of stardom yet that I am aspiring to, or let's say, rather than stardom, let's just say, incredible busyness at high fees, then I have at least gotten a lot of experience, and sometimes the hard way. So I do have a lot of things to share. I have advice and tips and stuff. So yeah, reach out to me at jimmeskimen.com anytime you have a question. Any of your listeners, I'm always happy to help.
I absolutely will, and I'll send you my reel too, and let me know what you think of it, if it's attention getting or not. Because I've got I got a few
Tell us
credits
if
under
Jason's
my
reel is
belt.
better or worse than our theme song.
I'm sure it's better. It's got to be. It has to be.
It would be hard to imagine anything worse than your theme song. So,
well, you've never seen Jason's acting.
Oh, shut up.
I do want to ask you on a serious note though, like, have you ever considered seriously writing a book or a memoir? Because I'm sure that you've had plenty of you know funny run-ins on set, being on so many sets of just like every sitcom you can think of, doing just all the voiceover you can think of.
I haven't really because, as I say, I'm not a very well-known person, so it would be a kind of a labor of love, maybe for my family one day. But I've written a lot about being a professional and working and stuff like that, less a anecdotal kind of thing, although some little stories pop into it, and that's part of my online course too, which, as I say, is in limbo at the moment, but hopefully up and running again. We had to change it from one platform to another, and it's not quite marketed yet, but revisit me to find out about that. And yeah, I do. It's interesting when you're. I've been in big productions where I was involved for many months. I've been in big productions where I was involved for half a day. I was in big animated projects where I worked literally for a half an hour. And so it's a very nomadic existence. And sometimes we think, you know, as audience members, we're like, oh, you were in that movie with I don't know, George Clooney. You obviously must have spent a lot of time with him. Well, I saw him go by.
Right.
You know, I we he was at the craft service table. He passed me a piece of cheese. You know, there's often not the kind of you know, tight bond that say the cast members of Private Ryan, you know, must have had. We imagine, you know, when they go through their boot camp or whatever.
Right.
Oftentimes, it's such a fragmented and departmentalized kind of career. You know, I've worked on plenty of TV shows where I didn't even go to the set. I just in my studio here, which you see, I created the recording that they wanted to play in a scene, and I sent it in over the email and or you know over the internet, and they use it in the show. So sometimes you don't even, and in fact, more and more frequently, you don't actually come in contact with the people that you're working with. So I'm grateful for the times that I've actually spent on a set with tons of people and sat around and, you know, got to visit with them and got to know them a little bit. Such as like The Grinch. I worked on The Grinch for 4 months, and I got to know many, many actors and many, many talented production people, makeup people, and wig people, and stunt people, and you know, filmmakers and circus people, and we had everybody in that show. So that kind of stuff you really love, and that's worthy of telling for sure.
But with
That could
your
be the title of your memoir. George Clooney passed me a piece of
yeah.
cheese.
I'm just going to make a note of that.
But with your body of work, like especially with the voiceover stuff, do you still have to audition for things, or are you at a point now where it just comes to you?
Most things I do have to audition for because even though I do occasionally get offers, I got an offer today, but I also auditioned for something today. So you know, it's a very the arts are very competitive, and that's not because uh, it's a mean business, but there are an awful lot of people like yourself, Jason, who would like to be part of it, who say it looks like fun. I think I've got the skill set or almost, and I'd like to try my hand at it. So uh, we did my wife has an acting school in not too far away from here, and it's a very good one. We had a speaker come in and speak from the point of view of what goes on the other side in the casting side. These people that you're auditioning for, what are they looking for, and what is their attitude and what is their viewpoint basically on the process, because it's very different from an actor's viewpoint on it, right? We're looking at it often from the viewpoint of, hey, you know, I need a job and I'm good at this, you know, and pick me. And they are looking at it from the view of, I need to find someone that will help tell the story of this director or producer or creative person who will help me tell this story. So the actor has to kind of figure out ways to demonstrate that, hey, I am the perfect person to help you tell this story. And that I forget why I started talking about this, but it's already slipped my mind here in the afternoon. But so we have to make ourselves basically very, very fluid and capable, and it's a communication art form. So we have to be very good at communicating, and that means not just the technical of having a nice mic and a nice space to work in, but the capability of playing a lot of different kind of emotions, characters, backgrounds, viewpoints, moods, having that dexterity, that immediate sort of ability.
Do you feel like doing voiceover is actually harder than regular acting, because you have to convey so much through your voice and not just with your facial expressions, body language? It's just your voice.
Well, I don't know if it's more difficult, but it's just different. It's distinct, and as you say, you're conveying things with a different set of tools. You're not using your face, you're not using your body. You're using your body, but only to propel the sound out. So you have less or fewer limitations in voice. I can play, an alien. I can play a little tiny, squirty little thing. I can play all different kinds of stuff and people from all over the world. And it doesn't matter what I look like or even if I have shoes on. When you get into on camera, obviously there's a whole different scene going on there, and you have to be able to give a performance that involves more than just your neck and your mouth.
Yeah.
So it's just different, and you have to figure out which one you love the best, I guess. I know lots of people, and probably you do too, that are stage actors that love the stage, and they don't care that they're being paid $200 a week.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care that they're living in a crappy apartment in New York that has one window leading out onto a brick wall, because they're in the theater, and they will make the sacrifices for that, because that experience of being immersed in a role for 2 hours to them is like, well, that's it. That's what I want to do. And that's what being an actor is to me. I didn't go down that path because I am different. I liked and gravitated toward voiceover work because it was fast,
Mm-hmm.
because I could get in and out quickly. And because I have a lot of interests, and I'm a little bit of a flibbertigibbet. I like to, I'm like a bee that goes from petal to petal, or blossom to blossom. And indeed that, that's just me. And I know of quite a few guys like me that we like to do that. We like to buzz around and handle a lot of different things. I'm a visual artist. I like to paint and draw. I still like to do improv, and I love to do movies. I love to do TV shows and good parts. Now I like dramatic parts and age appropriate things. And every now and then, like yesterday or the day, what was it? Monday, I did a bunch of voices for the new Beavis and Butthead show. I like to do that. I went in a half an hour and did half a dozen voices.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So is it harder? I don't know. I think it's all the same. I think, again, it's your preference, what you're comfortable with, and what your lifestyle permits. Certain actors are just handsome men who can memorize lines well and do a passable job at acting. And you know what? There's a huge need for that there, apparently. And that'll never go away. Beautiful women, beautiful young ladies. There is always going to be a place for them in Hollywood. And it runs the gamut from the extremely, crass and quasi pornographic and below, to monumentally aesthetic and amazing Emily Blunt kind of stuff.
Right. And so does, having your hand in so many I guess forms of entertainment industry, does that open it up for you to be able to do more projects, or does that kind of limit you in a way? Because you're doing acting, voice acting, comedy, impressions, and all that. Does that open up to be able to do all of that, or do you still kind of have to, oh well, now I'm limited because I have to audition a certain way to do acting jobs or do a certain thing to get voiceover jobs.
I would think maybe a few decades ago it might have been a limitation. I don't conceive of any limitations at all anymore. I think the acting profession and actors are well known enough, both inside and outside the business, for us all to kind of realize Steve Carell. Okay, Steve Carell can be on The Office and do funny comedy like in Anchorman and broad, crazy, edgy stuff. He can also be a great dramatic actor. We've seen that, and he can do Gru on that animated film. Its name escapes me, which you can fill me in on. And we understand that he does that. And if he went on Broadway, we'd get it. And if he did a commercial campaign for chewing gum, we'd go, yeah, of course. I don't think, or a print campaign for Bulova watches, we go, yeah, we get it. I get it. It's not a big mystery. It's not going to be, oh, I thought you were just the guy who did this. I think if we enjoy somebody's performing, and if they're well-rounded enough as a performer, and if they're like an artist who's really trying to create effects, then we're like, what else you got? That's what I think.
Right. Just more arrows for the arsenal, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And then when they write their autobiography, their memoir, and it becomes an audio book, we'll pick that up and listen to them read it.
Right.
Like Sir Patrick Stewart, who, by the way, is I think he was up for an Audie. I don't know if he won an Audie, but his book is really, really good. And I always try to pimp it a little for Sir Pat because, I have been doing my impression of him for quite some time and people really love it. And I enjoy acting like him. So I think it's only fair in repayment to promote and plug his little memoir.
I think you could get a pretty well-paying job if he ever gets too lazy to record an audiobook.
Yeah.
I do want to get a little bit into your start in the entertainment industry. At what
to start any day. I'm just waiting to get my mother always said, you never feel like you're part of this. You always feel like you're kind of getting started. And it's true because it's all dependent on that next interesting idea somebody has and who they need to tell the story. And it's kind of like flicking through, the ultimate dramatization is that flicking through your Instagram feed. It's like movie, lifetime, career. It just never really seems to end. And it's always beginning.
Right. Always just different chapters of the same journey.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you though, having a mother who is a famous actress, I imagine that you probably got interested or started in the entertainment industry at a pretty young age. At what age did you sort of know that you wanted to pursue acting or impressionism?
Well, it was kind of late. There were various impediments to me figuring out what I wanted to do. The good one was that I was also an artist, a visual artist. I wanted to paint. That was my first drug. I was going to say love, but I started to say drug. It's both. And I pursued that very diligently, and I still, like to do it. But I got confused about the acting thing because I did have a kind of a feeling of wanting to perform. But I was a little bit shy, and it was something that grown-ups did more than kids. I didn't know any child actors really, but I did plays. And my mom was not going to be a woman that took me around to auditions. So she was working on her own career as a single mom with 2 kids. And so she didn't have any attention at all on, well, how can I put my kid to work? So it was like an other thought completely for me to do that. And I wasn't sure really what it was all about, to be honest. I mean, I was disoriented about the arts in general, but I knew about drawing a picture. I did not really understand, for instance, how television really worked, how film really worked. And when I started to make my own little movies, then I began to go, oh, I see. Each scene is different and it takes time to set up. Began to kind of piece it together. Nowadays, I think young people and the public, the civilian public who aren't in show business, have a much broader understanding, or have the ability to have a broader understanding of what is this, what is this hobby, what is this craft, and they understand about so much. Oh, you have to light it, and the sound has to be there, and they rehearse, and maybe there's a month between this scene and the next scene. Maybe they didn't shoot it until next month in another country, or maybe it only looks like it's underwater and really it's in a warehouse in Culver City, and people can begin to understand it. I just didn't have a natural great understanding of that.
Well, what was it? I hate to interrupt you, but what was it like? Because you were really a teenager when your mom, who, if people don't know, your mother is Marion Ross, and she played Mrs. Cunningham on Happy Days, and arguably one of the biggest TV shows, for what, like 8-9 years? How many seasons did that?
11 seasons. Yeah.
Did you ever like go to set and understand
Yeah.
like how big that show was?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a little more obvious that it was a big show back then when it did take off. Now, it had a very slow ramp up, which shows don't really have today. It was on a couple of seasons before it really got a lot of attention. But remember, of course, back then there were 3 channels. So if you were third, it was not that you were at the bottom, but it wasn't like you weren't below the bottom.
Yeah, even in
today,
third place was probably like 20 million viewers a night,
Yeah, exactly. Something horrendous like that. And it didn't. Once they changed format and became a multicam show as opposed to a single cam show, that's when it really took off. And then, it got to be very popular. And so when I would go to watch them film, and I would go once I could drive, I would go on Friday nights down to Paramount and watch them film and have a great time because, people would come to see this show film, and it was a hot ticket. And, if you got in, that was amazing. And they would just be so electrified by the experience because Fonzie was like Elvis.
Yeah.
And the whole phenomenon of the show, it was a very beloved show at the time. So yeah, I was aware there was something really big happening, and I began to see how it worked. But I also was confused by that because it was like huge stardom, huge amounts of attention, and so I couldn't quite sort out. Well, what am I really interested in about this? Am I really interested in the money, the attention, just the glamour of it all, the noise of it all, the color of it all, or is there something else that I'm interested in? And I've come over now, my many years later, I realized, well, no, I like creating the effects that an actor creates. I like making a character. I like creating a scene with other actors where we are telling a story and it has an effect on an audience. It either makes them laugh or makes them feel edgy or it makes them wonder or it makes them go, oh, I like all that. And I don't really too much care. It'd be great to be part of a hit show, but that's not enough for me to hang my hat on. It's a lifetime. So you want it to be very engaging and always satisfying. And you don't want to, I would hate to be part of a show like I would hate it if my biggest claim to fame would be on one of these procedural shows, like the crime show, where I'm the guy who holds a clipboard in the lab and goes, well, he was last seen on this road, and the mercury level in his blood was 0.005%. And that's every week I get to say something like that, and It's a huge hit show, and I get paid $60,000 a week. I'd be like, I'd feel so, you'd feel great that you're paying your bills, but you'd feel like, I don't know. There's more to life than that.
Right.
As an actor, you want to go, when do I get to carry the gun? When do I get to pull the guy out of the burning car? I'm holding a clipboard again.
So if you had the choice between being like the lead actor on, say, a really huge television show or, like a streaming show right now, or have an extremely successful voiceover career doing different things where that paycheck is not guaranteed every week, but the stuff you're doing is just, really interesting and different from week to week? Which one of those would you pick?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, if the TV show, these days I kind of want to get my whole face and body and feet and everything into it. I want to be a 360-degree actor. I've spent so much time in rooms like this with microphones. I get it. It's fun. I like it. I can do it in my sleep. I have. That's why the walls are padded, because sometimes I have to lay down. Uh, and so now I find it a little more challenging to do the bigger job.
Yeah.
Right.
I worked on a show called Gaslit with I got to work with Sean Penn and Julia Roberts. Good script, great director, Matt Ross. Uh, I'm in the scene. I'm playing golf with Sean Penn, and we're talking about awful things. And I'm in the Senate chamber, and I'm grilling Julia Roberts. And I felt like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I like this. This is grown up stuff.
Yeah.
This is actor stuff. I can hold my own with these Oscar winners. This is where I'm supposed to be, and it was very, very, very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you still find it a challenge to sort of, be on set and acting these kind of things, even though you've, been on probably the top three greatest sitcoms of all time?
Do I find it a challenge?
Right. Like, I mean, do you find it a challenge to still go to set and still act, even though you've been perfecting that craft for so long, and you've done, some of the
Yeah.
greatest sitcoms and so many live action acting roles?
Well, if I understand your question, I mean, it's always a challenge. It's always a new challenge. There are always new people to work with. I don't feel like, I'm above it all or above anything. I like the activity of acting. Like I like the activity of painting. It's fun to do. It's all the different parts of it, researching, rehearsing, figuring out things, working with other people. It's engaging. It's a pleasant activity generally. Particularly if the people you're working with are professionals, which most of them are. They're usually pretty supportive team players. Sometimes you run into a jerk, but not often. It's a social business, and so the people that get drawn to it are people that like other people.
Yeah.
Like they're not in it to be alone. Different from voiceover. I mean, I think voiceover is a lot of lonelier people and a lot of people that are just fine all by themselves. But in the theater and in film and TV, you get a lot of people that like to hang out with a lot of other people and talk and stuff.
One
Right.
things I wanted to ask you about, especially with your voiceover stuff, you've done some stuff like Thundercats where you do multiple different voices. Like do you keep files like on your computer to go back and listen to, like if you do to remember what you did for certain characters? Because a couple of years ago, I actually was doing a scripted podcast, and I had to do like 12 different voices, and I was constantly having to go back and listen to old sound files to remember what I did for each character.
Yeah, that happens. That definitely happens. These days, it mostly happens to me when I'm working on a big audio book that has a lot of characters, particularly something like a Western, where I've done a lot of Westerns. And you got the sheriff and the mayor and the banker and the bad guy's friend, and then the hero and the hero's sister and the hero's dad and their mother. And he was from Ireland, and this guy's, and you make all these decisions. And so I'll make a little separate file right on the session that I'm doing that just has characters, and I'll label this one Pedro, and this one Mr. O'Hanahan, and I can, if I can't remember, like if it's going on over days and weeks, and I'm like, oh man, that was 250 pages ago. I cannot remember what Rustler number 4 sounded like.
Yeah.
And I'll go back and have that reference. Luckily, we can do that very easily, record these things.
Yeah.
But sometimes people who are fans or interviewers like yourselves will say, "Hey, you played in Batman 9. You played Thug number 3. Can you do that voice for us?" And I'm like, I really don't remember. I was probably a rainy afternoon in October of 1995, and I do not remember. But although I remember the weather, so there you go.
Are you at all afraid of the coming AI revolution when it comes to things like voiceover? And and acting and things like that, because it's coming. We can't stop it. It's coming.
Yeah, I think it's here. I'm concerned for mankind about it because from what the little that I've heard in terms of abuses of AI, in other words, using artificial intelligence, using the ability to scrub and combine data in new ways, using it for antisocial purposes is the few examples I've heard are just pretty bone chilling.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a society if you can't trust a major source of information. And AI has, it seems to me, and still this is all just developing, but I got the image of like a big reservoir that everybody's drinking and getting their fresh water out of. And if you now have something that will taint that water for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not sure what part of the reservoir you should stick your straw into, because you might get something that will kill you or make you very ill or make you go nuts, then that's kind of the way AI is. So I'm less, I think, concerned about how my little voiceover career is going to be affected by it, because these things are always changing anyway. Technology is always making things a little bit easier, and often at the expense of somebody's job. Who was, the one person that decided, well, I'll do it the hard way, and then that's the job that goes away because, oh, we're not doing it the hard way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We figured out a way to do it easier. Okay. I'm less concerned about that than I'm concerned about the overall effect of it on the whole population of Earth, who are now dependent on phones and the internet almost exclusively. And if that trust goes out, if the bottom of trust goes out, where I'm not sure I'm talking to a human being, you're not sure that I wrote what was just published that has my name on it, then it's like, wow, where do we go from there? It's a very, very interesting philosophical conundrum, I think, for all of us. So that's my take on that for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we really got to be careful, especially for people like us, who a lot of our voices are out there on the internet, and anybody can go and get an AI voice generator and pretend to be one of us. Like I worry. Like I actually thought the other day that maybe I should tell, go to my mom and dad and say, hey, if you ever get a phone call from me saying like I need money because I'm in jail. And it sounds like me, it's coming from my phone number, we should have some sort of like safe word to make sure it's me, because this is happening to people now where they're spoofing people's voices and like calling their parents and using that voice to say, hey, I'm in jail, can you send me some money? And they're, they're scamming a lot of people with these voice things, and that's scary. That frightens me.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation worth having with your family. Absolutely. It's a good idea, say, hey, listen, if I don't say pineapple at the end of the sentence, it ain't me.
I'm in jail, Mom. Give me money. Pineapple. Pineapple.
So I want to go back a little bit to your origin in impressionism and voice acting. When did you first kind of realize that you had this uncanny knack for being able to, embody other people, not just with your voice, but, with your body language and everything as well, performing live action renditions of JFK, for instance?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. In our own realm, you'll understand this, I think, very well, is that as actors, we like to play different characters, and we like to kind of imagine ourselves. And just like children at play, we go, well, I am the mayor, I am the Batman, I am the monster, whatever. And to us, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's as quick as a decision. We decide that's who we're going to be, and we're utterly convincing. When now we want to go out and reach outside of ourselves and convince another person, and that's another level, you could say, of accomplishment. So for me, I I always felt like, well, from what I am hearing, I can do certain voices and accents pretty passably well. And I'm not, and by that, I'm thinking in my, in my early teens. Um, and there was not a huge change in my voice. I am aware that my voice must have changed and gotten deeper, but there wasn't like a steep, precipitous drop.
Mhm.
It just sort of kind of wobbled into the next uh, category. Uh, but I would say that I started to really get a lot of confidence uh, when I started doing improv in New York City in my early 20s. And people would call me out in a scene and say, okay, President Reagan, thank God you're here. Here's the situation. And then I would have to do President Reagan in order to, kind of honor that request. And when I got a good response from that, from an audience, a live audience, or from any of the voices that I was doing, I felt like, oh, okay, they also agree with me that that sounds like Reagan. And I began to build my confidence very slowly that way, that like, oh, okay, maybe what I'm thinking is actually pretty accurate. There's agreement here. Because our voices sound different to us in our bodies and in our heads than our voices sound outside our body to other people. Which is why when you hear your voice recorded for the first time, it's sort of an awful experience because it's so jarring. Because that's not what I sound like. Generally the response that people have. They hear their own voice and they go, "That's not me," and they go, "Well, that's what I said, though." Oh no! So I got a lot of confidence from actually trying it out, and then when I got paid, sometimes I started to get paid. Hey, can you do these voices? I remember I was asked to do a series of like promotional recordings for a kind of a TCM sort of station back in New York. And can you do Clark Gable, Humphrey Bogart, and all these old stars? And I'm like, yeah, 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 I can do all those guys. By which I meant I can hear them in my head, and I think I have enough mastery over this equipment to take that recording or that sound and put it out into the air. But until someone said, "Great, that sounds really good. Here's your money," I wasn't really I wasn't really that confident. And then, after you get paid for it a few times, you're like, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
And now after 30 whatever years of being a professional, I have a very good conversance and confidence about what it is that I can do. And if someone says to me, I don't think your Tommy Lee Jones is that good. You should be deeper and you need to talk more clipped and you have to, I'm like, okay, say whatever you want. I don't really care. I don't really care because I already have my own certainty about it. There's nothing that really is going to disturb me. There's nothing there's nothing about your statement that really is going to have any impact on me at all.
So whenever you're doing your impressions or trying to learn a new impression, do you just kind of walk around your house just doing the impression? Or because like me, I find when I'm doing impressions, I'm kind of embarrassed to do it around other people, so I'll do it like when I'm by myself driving or something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wherever you happen to be, whenever the spirit moves you. I'm lucky. I've got this little fortress of solitude, so I can always slip in here and try out things and research on YouTube and try different voices. Every week, I try to do a celebrity phone call, mocked up phone call between Colonel Sanders, who I've been voicing for some years for the KFC brand, and I have him call up one of these here celebrities. And I'll record that and cut that together. And it's sort of an experiment because it's often somebody that I don't even particularly know what their voice sounds like until I do a little research, like Robert Oppenheimer or Salvador Dali, or I'll get the idea that Colonel Sanders should call Albert Einstein. And I'll go online and go, what did Albert? I kind of know what he sounds like, but I don't really remember exactly. And I'll research it. And so, you practice wherever you can. Cars are great. I agree. I'm like you. I don't want to just suddenly go out in front of a bunch of people and start doing something that I'm not sure if it's going to sound like hell.
Yeah.
You know, we're just now really scratching the surface of what all you've done, but me and Jason are both huge fans of the program. Whose Line Is It Anyway? Um,
Yes.
we've had a little insight into that show. We've been lucky enough to interview Jonathan Mangum on this program, so he's told us, about how the show sort of works now. But something I'm curious about, because you were on, back in the day during its first run. Now with it's over now, but with the new reboot of the show, it seems like there's always, even though there's a rotating fourth member, it's someone that they know very well and have worked with, like Jonathan Mangum, Greg Proops, Jeff B. Davis. This sort of, it's a different person, but it's the same person. They kind of know if they lead them somewhere, they know what they're going to get back. What was the feel back then in the first run when you're a new performer coming into this new situation? You've maybe never worked with these people before, and you really don't know, where they're going to lead you.
Yeah, good question. So I did the show in, I believe, 1994. Or no, that's not right. No, it would be earlier, maybe 1990. Oh, you know what? It was 1991. Okay, 1991, a long, long time ago. And it was the British show, the first one, as you say. Now, it did not run in the United States. So I think I'd probably seen one show that they sent us a VHS of, a tape, but I was unaware of it as being a series other than that. Like these producers came to New York where I was living at the time. They were on the prowl for talented improvisers. I was part of a community and a group, and so they came to see our show, and they chose me and my friend Christopher Smith to be, who was in the group that I was in, Interplay, to be guest stars on the show. And I think we did a couple of different tapings, and which were lengthy. I think they taped for like 3 hours plus in front of a live audience. They call them, they just shoot an amazing amount of stuff, and then they can cut together, I don't know, 4 or 5 shows out of every night. And because of what I'd been doing with my community, it wasn't my community. I was part of this school and sort of theater group, and we had multiple groups and lots of different kind of shows, all circled centered around improv. I was kind of like, this is very simplistic. This what they demand of you on that show is go for the laugh, sing the song and make it rhyme, do the silly thing. And it's kind of like, this is sort of remedial to me. Not to be a braggart about it, but we were trying to do things like do a whole improvised stand-up comedy routine, do a whole improvised monologue that might be in a play, do an improvised one-act play, what would an improvised Broadway musical be like? And these are all things that I've seen groups do moving forward, but as far as I know, we were the first to try to tackle some of those things. So for us to go, okay, do a funny number where you pick up a plastic object and pretend that it's 10 different things. It's like, it was not very challenging and not all that interesting, but fun. And I think some of the ones that we wound up doing, I've seen them on YouTube now, and they make me laugh. Particularly the thing that I did with Ryan Stiles and Christopher, where I provide Ryan's arms. It's called Helping Hands, I think, is the form. And he put his arms behind his back, and I was his arms for a skit about going to the dentist. And it makes me laugh every time because I was able to meld with Ryan mentally so that I could predict and he could predict, and we were basically one unit, and it's very funny to watch. I also threw my shoulder out so badly trying to create this illusion of his arms because he's about 8 inches taller than I am. And so the rest of the taping, you can see me kind of nursing this shoulder because I screwed myself up. But it was very fun to do. I've subsequently, I know a lot of people on some of the later iterations of the show, the American show. I auditioned for the Drew Carey show, and I did a lengthy audition and was not asked to come back. They pick the people that they want to work with. It's very arbitrary. That's fine. I totally understand. If I was doing an improv show, I'd pick my friends.
Mhm.
And then recently, I don't know, it was recently as 4 or 5 years ago, I went to see a friend of mine who's a celebrity was guest starring with them. And so I went to see the show and I was like, boy, certain things about it, I felt like it was a waste of talent a little bit, like we can all make dick jokes till the cows come home, but I just like to, I just think there's so many other things in the world of humor to tackle other than, oh, it's funny if you put your penis in that. It's true. It's true. Can't argue with you. Not the only funny thing we could think of, maybe.
But is it scary to go to do something like that? Even, I mean, did you guys get to do any kind of like any kind of getting to know each other beforehand, or was it just kind of just
Very
you
little,
got
very
thrown
little.
in?
I think we did a run through and probably tried out different games. And I worked with Mike McShane, and I worked with Josie Lawrence, and I worked with Ryan, and another girl whose name I've managed to forget. And yeah, it was a little bit daunting because the other thing is not everybody's trained in the same school of
Yeah.
improv. And we were trained in a certain way, and other people were maybe never trained. Maybe they were just clever. Other people were trained in a completely different way where, they feel very comfortable not telling you who you are and just doing what they're doing. And then you have to fit yourself in. And I came from a school where we would always like let the other person know who they are and then agree with them and they would agree with us and then we would build something that way. So you're kind of like at a dojo, having a karate match with people that have learned things at different schools. And you're like, oh, that's how you pin a guy down like that, huh? All right.
Yeah, because
So it was daunting for sure.
Because I've done some improv in the acting classes I've taken, and one of the things I learned the most from doing improv is just having to trust the other person.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't really work well without trust
Yeah.
and agreement.
Mhm.
Yes. And is the very famous kind of motto.
Yeah.
And see, that's why this podcast will never work, Jason. I can't agree with you on just about goddamn anything.
But
Yeah,
yet
you
we've
guys have
gone
been at odds. You've been
200
at loggerheads
episodes.
the whole time. I could barely get a word in with you guys arguing.
200 episodes of this, man. Like, how are we ever going to make this successful?
I don't know, buddy. We are gonna let you go here soon in just a couple of minutes, which seems crazy because I feel like we've barely even talked about anything. I do want to ask before we let you go. I want to ask you a question about some of the voiceover work that you've done for Disney's Genie
Yeah.
since Robin Williams' passing. What is the key to voicing someone so well that not only does everyone at a party know, oh yeah, he's doing Robin Williams, but everyone at home listening won't be able to tell if it's you or Robin Williams doing the voice?
Well, to me, it's just an acting thing. I think you just have to sort of try to embody the person. Obviously, I've listened to him a lot and studied it somewhat. And I'm, again, very buoyed by the fact that I've been paid to do this. So, I realize that I have a certain acumen. In fact, I've been doing it longer than you say, because I started doing it for Disney prior to Robin's passing, much earlier. I think I was doing it for maybe 8 years before he passed away. So he had to approve of this voice, which was a real confidence builder. And then subsequent things have just made it more apparent that I know what I'm doing. But I think it's just an acting exercise. I think you just have to be able to create that other person convincingly. And does it take practice? Yes. Does it take study? Absolutely. Another big component of it is affinity. How much do you like this character? How much do you want to be close to that guy? I think when we go to see a movie, we feel so close to some of the main characters that we sort of become them or they become us. There's an overlap there. And that's how it is with my favorite actors. And my favorite voices to do are people that I admire. Robin Williams is certainly one of them.
How intimidating is that to get approval from the guy you're doing the impression of? Because I honestly, if somebody was doing an impression of me, I probably wouldn't hear it the same way other people do, because other people, like you doing an impression of him, you're picking up on things that he probably doesn't even know that he does or did.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Yeah, it was a great honor. It was a great honor. I was again, it was one of those things where I think I sound pretty much like him. Let's give this a shot. And then when I got the approval, it was like, okay, well, we agree on one thing anyway. Pull that off.
Well, that is a perfect way to end the interview right there. I
Can
wish
I
we could
promote
have.
my live show?
Yes, please.
Yes, of course. We are going to roll out the red carpet for you right now. Please tell us where everyone can see you live, where everyone can find you online. Please tell us everything, Jim Meskimen.
Okay, well, I'm all over Instagram at Jimpressions. That's pretty much my handle on YouTube as well. And my live show is called Jimpressions. I'm going to be performing it about once a month in Los Angeles, and hope to maybe tour, but I don't have anything set up to do that quite yet. Anyway, you can go find out about it at jimmeskimen.com. That's Meskimen, plural. And what else? I'm on TikTok also, Jim Ross Meskimen, and I'll try to stream the show. The next one is going to be live show is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're in the Southern California area, come to the Acting Center. You can find out all about it at jimmeskimen.com. But yeah, I'd love to meet some of your listeners.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all those links in the show notes. So if you're interested, go follow him. Go follow him over on Instagram, and you can even see everything over there. And man, it has been an absolute honor having you on the show. We'd love to have you back on again if you think if you'd like to come back and talk more, because I still have about 1 million questions to ask. We didn't even scratch the surface of really anything of your career. It's amazing. So thank you so much for coming on to the show.
You betcha, Jason. Jacob, I've enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Jacob, anything you want to throw out there before we leave this evening?
Yeah, man, if you're not in the Patreon yet, definitely get in there. We are slowly building that thing up to something pretty good. There's always fun extras that you can get over there. You can get open rants, you can get headliners, you can get special challenge videos every single month. And this month, for the rest of March, we've got Orlando comedian and national headliner Patrick Sisk coming on. We also have Carson Taylor and Zeke Buckholtz, 2 legends of the Mobile comedy scene, coming on together for a very fun episode. So if you are not on that train yet, please get in the Patreon and make sure you tell a friend about the show, because we have a lot of fun over here at Open Micers Podcast.
Yeah, we have our challenge video that we put out about 2 weeks ago where me and Jacob ate Vegemite, and it was not great.
Nope, not good. No. Spoiler alert. It kind of sucks.
Was it better? Was it better than the theme song? Is the question.
About the same. It was the food equivalent of our theme song, is what it was. But thank you again for coming on the show, Jim. It's been absolutely awesome. We'll have you on again, and if you want to email us at openmicerspodcast@gmail.com. Go to openmicers.com. That's our website where you can get the blog and all that kind of stuff. Linktree/openmicerspodcast. You can get all the links where you need to go. The socials. Give us money over there. We like money. And we love all of you. Thank you for being here with us. And we'll see you all next week. And thank you all for watching on YouTube. We will see all of you next week.